Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name's Mackenzie, aka Astromag, and I'm an astrologer, and I'm here to share my astrological musings with you all. Today we're diving into all things Taurus, the vibe of this earthy sign, how Taurus season supports self-worth and self-growth, and how you can harness this energy to feel more grounded and abundant and aligned. After the fiery surge of Aries season, Taurus season arrives like a nice, soothing, comforting hug. It's grounding and sensual, and it's full of this slow and steady magic. So first things first, Taurus is the second sign of the Zodiac. It's very different than the sign that comes before it, being Aries. If you haven't watched my Aries video, be sure to go back and watch that as I go into much greater detail on the energy of Aries. But basically, Aries is this like bold and fiery and passionate and fast-moving and risk-taking, pioneering energy. It's that seedling first sprouting out of the ground. Now, as we move into Taurus season, Taurus is an earth sign and it's fixed in nature. So it's helping to slow things down. Aries are the fire starters, so it's kind of like that lighting of a match. And so it's good at starting things, but eventually it needs something to help sustain that fire. And that's where Taurus steps in. Taurus wants to help sustain that momentum, making sure whatever you're doing lasts, and so you don't like burn yourself out, basically. Imagine that you just ran like a 100-meter dash and you were sprinting that whole time. That's that Aries energy. Taurus energy is kind of like that feeling after you've sprinted and after your heart rate has calmed down and after that like adrenaline rush. It's that feeling of like coming back into this calm and relaxed state and being fully embodied. So if Aries is that like 100-meter dash, then Taurus is this like leisurely, slow and steady and deliberate walk down like a nature path. And when you think about it, when you're going down that nature path, you're able to kind of like move slowly and you're able to feel what it feels like for the breath to enter your lungs and all the different things that you can smell and all the different sights that you're able to see and the nature noises like listening to the birds and other wildlife, and just what it feels like to be fully embodied. Taurus is associated with, that height of spring, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. And when you think about it, when we're in that height of spring, we're seeing those trees and flowers start to bloom and blossom. And it's like we can just really see the earth coming alive again. And that's inviting us to indulge in our five senses. And that's something that I hugely associate with Taurus energy. It's those things that you can see and feel and taste and touch and hear. And so with spring comes these beautiful colors and these lovely smells. And I always associate Taurus with that quote, like, stop and smell the roses. Because it really is that energy of like slowing down and being present. Taking time to slow down and appreciate the beauty of nature and of life. And so while things are blooming, also remember those seeds that sprouted during Aries season, because it's like those seedlings are deepening their roots during Taurus season, really strengthening those foundations in order to become more sturdy and secure, able to take in more resources through those roots as we move through, the rest of spring and summer. There's going to be a lot of like earthy metaphors with this one because Taurus is an earth sign like through and through. It's stable and sensual and deeply connected to the physical world. It's really associated with earthly practicality, and it seeks security through the senses and the physicality of life. And so because of this, it's almost like there's just this definite slowing down in the pace of life during this time of year. Again, inviting us to slow down and stop and smell the roses, feel the ground beneath our feet, and reconnect with our bodies and our values and the natural world, and reconnect with those things that bring us true pleasure and peace. And so with that slowing down, Taurus invites us to be more patient and methodical, moving more deliberately and with purpose, and not wasting our energy on things that don't matter to us or don't bring us value. If you have a Taurus in your life, then you probably already know that you cannot force a Taurus to do something they don't want to do. Especially if it doesn't align with their values, it's kind of like they won't even give it a second thought. So if you're watching this in 2025, right as I'm posting this, we just came out of this 6-week-long Venus retrograde, where we were really getting in touch with those things that we value most and coming back into alignment, really aligning ourselves with those things that we want most. And as we move into Taurus season, we're going to be really able to sink more deeply into that. Again, just moving more deliberately and methodically in a way that is more aligned with our values. During this time, we're really like rooting in our ideas in order to grow into something real and tangible. We're also not going to be really in any kind of rush during Taurus season because it's that season that reminds us that any kind of sustainable growth requires patience and presence and grounding ourselves in that and just trusting that process. The way I describe Taurus energy a lot of the time is an object at rest stays at rest, but also an object in motion stays in motion. So if you can just make those like small and deliberate and slow and steady steps during Taurus season, that's kind of like your best bet. Really making the most out of it. A lot of times with Taurus, I think of like a plant deepening its roots. It's not always apparent on the surface that the plant is growing, but it's growing in a very important way. Really sinking down and growing deeper in order to be able to take in nutrients better, and really just like anchoring itself down so it's more secure. And really that's what we're doing during Taurus season. And so while our growth may not always be externally visible, it will be felt internally, and it's just like that slow and steady growth, and we have to trust that it's happening. And so this is a really good time to like tend to yourself like you would a garden, making sure you have your necessary resources and you're getting enough nutrients and water and sunlight, and also making sure you're planted in a place where you have access to resources. And so it's a time to really invest in those things that nourish you and the things that you value most. And so if you watched my Aries video, then you know that Aries was that like friction and that buildup of energy in order for a plant to burst through that seed shell and initiate life. Taurus is sustaining that life and helping it grow and become stronger. I think that's why Taurus is associated with being resourceful and steady and dependable. When I think of a Taurus, I just think of somebody who's like chill and relatable and grounded and just very human. Like they're just chilling and vibing and doing their thing, and they don't try to be someone that they're not. They're all about just like getting their needs met and living a sensuous life. They can definitely be super wild though, depending on other placements. Taurus is kind of that epitome of like, keep it simple. They just prefer things to remain chill and uncomplicated. They just prefer to kind of like mind their own business, and they don't like to cause a problem or rock the boat. They just like for things to stay peaceful and even keel. It is ruled by Venus after all. Taurus also likes to maintain their material possessions, and they're very practical that way. They just really like to maintain that sense of ease and comfort. They're just trying to create like sustainable systems that they just have to like sort of monitor. And they're just pretty content with where they are in the present moment. They can definitely be creatures of comfort, and they just don't like change sometimes. Like they can be content never going up that mountain, like they made their garden and their life down in the valley, and they're fine staying there. Now I know this is probably a lot to take in, so let's bring it back to basics. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, so it's kind of like maintaining that material world, or like stable earth. If you need like a visual, I kind of view Taurus as like this fertile soil that really fosters growth and has these like dense nutrients. And even like that smell of like soil, you know what I mean? Or you can think of it as like that valley next to a mountain where there's like fertile ground and farmland, where like cows are grazing, and there's just like all this open space where there's growth and resources are all abundant. Being an earth sign, it's a receptive sign, and so it's able to attract resources and attract security, especially because it's also ruled by Venus. So it's also those things that we want and need to help us feel secure, both materially as well as emotionally. And so it's all about like these earthly, sensual pleasures. And I really associate it with those five senses. And that's how I can really see Taurus being ruled by Venus, because it's those senses that we get to enjoy as humans. It's those things that help make life more pleasurable. So it's like enjoying good food and listening to good music and taking in beautiful art and, feeling things that feel good, like a soft blanket or other things that feel good. And just like good smelling things and appreciating beauty and, all things sensual like that. In the Zodiac, it's the bull. And anyone who's been around cattle knows that most of the time they just kind of graze on grass, and they move slowly and deliberately, and they don't waste their energy. But if you piss a Taurus off, they will be like that bull in a china shop. It's like the smoke comes out of their nose, and like they see red, and they will charge ahead, horns first, and they won't stop. That's part of that stubborn quality that's often associated with Taurus. But you could look at it as they're just being persistent and hardworking. So it might take them a little bit to kind of like pick up speed, but once they do pick up speed, it becomes an object in motion, stays in motion. And then if we look at the glyph, even the glyph looks like, the head of a bull. It's that circle with what appears to be the horns on top. Now let's talk about Taurus's strengths and also challenging traits. Because there is a lot to love here, but like with every sign, it has its healthy expression and then its under-resourced to less than healthy expressions. So some Taurus strengths include being loyal and dependable and deeply reliable and practical and grounded and resourceful. They're also patient and persistent and stable and secure and incredibly strong-willed, and they have a lot of endurance. Some of their challenging traits include, stubbornness and resisting change, being overly attached to comfort and kind of being those creatures of comfort. Sometimes it can be a little hedonistic and materialistic and being like overly fixed, and so they can kind of get stuck in the past or hold grudges. In my experience, that stubborn stereotype does tend to hold out and it tends to come through very strong. I grew up with a super Taurus, so I'm very familiar with the energy. Still some of my favorite people though. But Taurus is a sign that likes to be at peace, and they like to maintain that peace. So again, if you disturb a Taurus's peace, they will charge at you, horns first. And they don't like to get like that. They like to keep things chill and even keeled. And so again, when someone disturbs that, sense of chill and calm and peace, that's a pretty big deal to them. And so if they do have to charge at someone and kind of expend their energy on that, they don't forget that. They can be those grudge holders. That's a part of that stubbornness and that fixed nature. But no sign is perfect. And Taurus really teaches us the beauty in building something strong and sturdy in a, deliberate way. And the beauty in stopping to smell the roses and appreciating the beauty in nature and in life. But it also reminds us that too much attachment to either routines or people or possessions can really hold us back. Now, Taurus season runs from April 19th to May 19th, and it's kind of like our invitation to slow our roll and recenter. After that big burst of Aries season, Taurus season is all about building and nourishing and reconnecting with our values, helping to better cultivate a sense of self-worth and self-love and just even appreciation. Taurus season comes around as a reminder that growth doesn't have to be rushed, to really honor the pace of nature, embracing the natural rhythm and timing of all things. Not everything blooms at the same time, and you can't force something to bloom that's not ready. So let this season teach you the power of patience and presence and the beauty of building a life that actually feels good for you to live in. It's a time to be soft and sensual and really deepen your roots. So what are you committing to building slowly this season? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. And if any of this resonated, be sure to give a like and subscribe and hit the bell and comment below. And yeah, so until next time, be sure to stay grounded and trust the process and stop to smell the roses and appreciate the beauty around you. And that's all for now, so love you, bye!